Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and today we're talking about your division leaders, the Miami Dolphins, right? As they defeat the Cleveland Browns here at home in front of a very enthusiastic crowd at Hard Rock Stadium by a score of 39-17. The Dolphins totally dominate the Browns on both sides of the ball, all right, as Miami Dolphins only allowed 17 points on defense and score a very lovely 39 points on offense, all right? And MVP chants were all over the place today as Tua Tagovailoa goes 25 of 32, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is the most balanced game I think the Miami Dolphins have had, this year, in particular against any opponent, as it was both a combination of the passing game and the running game that pretty much electrified at Hard Rock today, right? It was actually a good time to also have a good running game because, as it's very well noted, the Cleveland Browns defense, as far as stopping the run goes, is one of the worst in the league. Although they do have some studs, in terms of their pass defense with guys like Newsome and Ward, and so on. The run defense is yet to be desired, and the Miami Dolphins also exposed them through the air as well. A very pretty much pedestrian day for both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tyreek did get into the end zone with 1 touchdown. However, he had 5 catches or 44 yards. Waddle did lead in yards, right, with 4 catches, 66. But Trent Sherfield and Alec Ingold both get into the end zone, right, with having a touchdown each. Tua has 3 touchdowns and once again, no interceptions. He's become the most efficient passer in the game today, and that's why he should be in the MVP conversation. If he does not get hurt and does not get concussed in both the Buffalo game, they say he wasn't. We all know he was, right, allegedly, in the Buffalo game, and they got pretty much hit pretty good in the Cincinnati game that knocked them out for a couple of weeks. The Miami Dolphins could probably be, at they're 7-3 right now. They could be about 9-1, all right, this season. We don't know. Maybe 10-0. We don't know because woulda, coulda, shoulda plays a key factor. But we all can see now that the Miami Dolphins are a completely different football team without Tua Tagovailoa. All right, the Miami Dolphins are a very good football team, explosive football team, probably the best offense in the league right now, especially at the record pace that both Waddle and Hill are going as far as receiving yards go in terms of receiving. All right, so the Miami Dolphins in general are the sky's the limit. All right, and they're playing extremely well. But what I think we need to also focus on today is now the Miami Dolphins are much scarier because now the running game is starting to come into fruition. The passing game was never a question, right? It was incredibly explosive, especially I would say after week 2 in particular, and none was seen more explosive than that fourth quarter against the Baltimore Ravens. But now they have a running game, right? Jeff Wilson, the running back that came from the San Francisco 49ers, right? Mr. Wilson had 17 carries, 119 yards rushing with a touchdown. Raheem Mostert was not left behind with 8 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown as well. The running game right now is explosive. Mostert with speed and Wilson with some speed and now power. Wilson runs very violently. And the good thing about Wilson, he could block. He could also catch the ball out in the backfield as well. All right, so this offense right now is absolutely unstoppable. Tua is pretty much amongst league leaders in percentage, in yards per reception as well, in touchdowns as well, and in terms of efficiency and QBR rating. Tua is just flat out unbelievable. And I will say this, the arm strength, for many people who still question the arm strength, Tua can deliver the ball at least 55 yards without an issue, right? Yes, he can throw it for 65 or 70, but I will say this, it's not everything, all right, in particular. The Miami Dolphins, schematically speaking, and Tua has now developed a good timing. Timing has looked a bit better with Tyreek Hill on a couple of occasions. Obviously, with the relationship coming out of Alabama, it has been an issue with Waddle. The bottom line is that in terms of precision, in terms of timing and getting the ball out into the receiver's hands, Tua has been fantastic, right? You can now take it away from the deep ball in general. You can have a good deep ball, but if you can't hit your receivers, it doesn't matter. All right. It really doesn't matter. One of the things I said yesterday about Ja'Cory Brown is that Ja'Cory Brown has a hell of an arm, but he misses his receivers when they were open on 2 separate occasions. All right. Tua is not missing these guys. He's hitting them and putting the ball in the perfect spot for them to be successful and score touchdowns. So take that in mind, all right? So although Tua does not have the arm strength of Pat Mahomes or Justin Herbert, Tyreek Hill is not complaining. Neither are Waddle, because they're getting the football, they're getting it in space, they're getting the yards after catch, and they're getting in the end zone now. So it's pretty much the sky's the limit for Tua Tagovailoa. All right, so let's get that into the mix. The Miami Dolphins defense, once again at home, 17 points allowed. All right, the last touchdown was by Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was pretty much held in check throughout the day. Nick Chubb, a very talented running back out of the University of Georgia, pretty much is a guy that has some speed and can pretty much get some yards after contact, as he is a big body back. 11 carries, 63 yards, 1 touchdown, but don't let that stat deceive you. I know it's 5 yards per carry. Don't let that stat deceive you. Half his yards came from his touchdown run, which is of 33 yards. So it was 1 carry of 33 that gave him that yards per carry. All right. In particular, Jacoby Brissett, all right, did not have a horrible game in particular. He was efficient on occasion, 22 of 35, 212, and a TD, but he was heavily harassed at times by the Dolphin defense. They got to him 3 times, right? They did sack him 3 times, in this football game. The Dolphin defense is going to have to create more turnovers, all right, and get to the quarterback a lot more. Hence the acquisition of Bradley Chubb. That should, in terms of the long term and a playoff run, be very good for the Dolphins, because they will wreak havoc, a lot more havoc than already is being wrecked, at the line of scrimmage. Emmanuel Ogbah is out for the year, so it could have been more of a blessing to bring in Chubb, a guy who is a proven pass rusher. Okay, so the Miami Dolphins are 7-3. They have a bye this upcoming Sunday, and then they will be facing off against the Houston Texans. That is going to be a home game. The Dolphins have a chance to build on the record and go 8-3. That is great, because the next leg of the record, the next leg of the schedule gets a lot more difficult, and we're probably gonna see some hiccups along the way, because the teams that they're facing are very talented. If not, it's gonna be on the road. So after they face the Texans, they go off and play the 49ers. So it's Mike McDaniel versus his old coach. That's gonna be a very interesting game. We'll see how they do that. Then they go off and then they face the Chargers. Or the NFL has scheduled it now where teams don't have to travel so much back and forth. If you're playing on the West Coast one game and another West Coast team's on your schedule, the NFL has done a good job of kind of like with a week after, scheduling that team. That way you don't have to travel so much and you don't face jet lag and so on. Eliminates kind of the competitive disadvantage that comes from, going east to west or west to east. All right. Then after that, it gets a little tougher. They play the Bills on the road. It's going to be colder this time around. All right. It's going to be interesting. They play the Packers at home, which is great. They play the Patriots on the road, and they finish off at home against the New York Jets. All right. The Miami Dolphins are in a very good position right now. They're not going to come back. They're probably not going to win every single game. All right. I'm not going to go win or losses, because the Miami Dolphins are capable of beating all these teams. Okay. I'm just saying that it's going to be very difficult, especially when you're going on the road, to beat everybody on your schedule. But the Dolphins do have a chance to beat all these teams. Their offense is just that good. And if your defense plays the way it is meant to play, a playoff caliber defense in particular, they will be successful. All right. So my keys as far as the rest of the season goes, I won't be doing any Dolphin stuff next week because there is a bye. But my keys for the rest of the season, as far as what they're going to be or what they need to be, is that on offense, the running game is going to have to play a major role, much greater, or at least, much greater than what's already been. They have to pretty much replicate what they replicated today. That's what I'm trying to say. Why do I say that? We'll check this out. Cold weather has been a very difficult situation for Tua and the Miami Dolphins on offense last year and years before. So the running game is going to have to be a major factor. And the acquisition of Wilson, the offensive line playing very well. Let's give them credit. All right. Tua was not sacked today. All right. And I'm not even sure. I think they only had about 3 tackles for loss today, as I can think about off the top of my head, as a team. The offensive line has been playing lights out these last 2 or 3 games. And I think it's imperative that the run blocking, allow, Tua to get a break from having to throw the ball so much. Why? In a cold weather situation, the ball is a little slippy, is a little heavy, feels a little heavier, harder, and Tua has had his issues, throwing the football, on the road during cold weather. It's easy when it's here because it's nice and warm and humid, whatever. So it's advantageous to the Dolphins, but it's a little disadvantageous when they have to go on the road. And we'll see if Buffalo is very sympathetic if it is incredibly cold, the way they complained about how hot it was down here. Let's see how they feel, when we go over there when it's freezing over there in Buffalo. The bottom line is that the Miami Dolphins are going to have to establish the run. The run is going to have to be key, especially when they play in cold weather. When they go in warm weather, like San Francisco, well, San Francisco's a little bit cooler, but when they go to San Diego, and so on, they could air it out a bit more. But when they play, New England, and when they play, over in Buffalo, the running game is going to have to be play a major factor, because the fact is that the cold weather situation makes it difficult for the offensive passing game to flow, at least historically speaking. We'll see how that comes about when the games are actually played, but I'm just giving my analysis based on, the years prior. All right. So the running game is going to have to be incredibly stout. All right. In particular, it's going to have to pretty much, it's going to have to a very balanced offense between run and pass, especially on the road these next few weeks. And also the defense has got to step up. As I've mentioned in previous shows, the defense is pretty solid at home. All right. They play well at home in particular, or at least they bend and not break when they're at home. They don't give up as many points, is what I'm trying to say. They only give up 17 to Buffalo, but they give up 90 plays. They're only 17 to Buffalo. They should have won, that game against Minnesota. They held them in check until Dalvin Cook had that run, that pretty much sealed the deal for the Vikings, And today they held the Browns to 17 points. So that's good, as what we've seen. They sacked the quarterback 3 times. But on the road, the Miami Dolphins have given up a lot of points. Let's not forget, they gave up a lot of points, to the Ravens, to the Lions, and also to the Chicago Bears, okay? So the Miami Dolphin defense has got to be as consistent on the road as it is at home, all right, if they're going to win these football games, because they're going to be in a smash mouth tight affair with some of these football teams, and the defense has got to make plays, cause turnovers if they can, or at least wreak havoc and sack the quarterback, okay? Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Melvin Ingram, whatever blitz packages that Josh Gordon can come up with are going to have to get to the quarterback to be able to pretty much secure a Dolphin victory. All right. At least, especially when I'm talking about on the road, if the Dolphins could do what I'm saying that they need to do, they will definitely be in the playoffs. And you want a playoff home game, whether it's in a wild card or whether you get a bye, if you're able to get that bye, for your team, and then you get a home game. The reason why the bye and a home game is so important is because you get a playoff game in your home. And again, the Miami Dolphins, due to the weather and so on, are much more advantageous unless they having to go to Baltimore. Let's just give an example. Have to go to Baltimore, when it's like maybe 15 degrees outside and snowing, and you're in the playoff sequence. So you have a better chance of advancing the playoffs if you're able to get the home game. I know it sounds rhetorical, but it's simple football, okay? If you're at home in the playoffs, your chances of winning are greater than they are if you're on the road, right? Just saying, right? So that's pretty much what I have to say in particular. All right, guys, that's my take. I hope you like what you heard. If you like what you heard, all right, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, right, to 305 Sports Now. Once again, I am Will. Be safe. God bless. See you soon.